Kurt, your grade, your reaction to the debate we saw last night.
Look, everybody talks about how good J.D. Vance is, and of course he's good. He's an attorney, and he's a good attorney. Now, keep in mind, not all attorneys are like that. I never ceases to amaze me the poor quality of litigators that I see in other courtrooms who can't put together an argument, can't string together the words to compose a sentence. But J.D. Vance went in and he did a really good job. I thought it was definitely a strategic choice of his to be nice. He could have been a lot more brutal, and there were a lot of openings that he didn't run through that I think he skipped on purpose because he was trying to introduce himself to people who didn't know him. We haven't talked enough about Tim Walz in this big conversation, I think. And I got to say, I don't think Tim Walz was terrible. I think he did a competent job, a layperson's job, a person who doesn't argue for a living, a person who's in a blue bubble and doesn't usually have to argue to defend his points. For that, I don't think he did terribly, and I think he's going to appeal to some people. So we shouldn't get out over our skis. But the fact that J.D. Vance was so good, and he was very, very good, really shouldn't lead us to underestimate the appeal of a guy like Tim Walz.
So as we kind of break down some of the elements here, what did you make of J.D. Vance's back and forth with the moderators and his handling of that situation?
Well, Charlie, it's very smooth, and it's almost obligatory now. I mean, after we saw how Newt Gingrich started it by calling out the biased moderators, Donald Trump calls out moderators, confronts everybody in sight, and we've had other candidates do it too. I think folks like you and I expect our candidates to confront biased moderators. The day of a sheepish Mitt Romney cowering in front of a behemoth like Candy Crowley when she, makes a false fact check, those days are over. We're not going to tolerate that. So J.D. Vance knew what he had to do. When they started pulling their shenanigans, he started mansplaining. And frankly, those ladies, I guess, needed a man to explain because they either didn't know what the hell they were talking about or they were lying. Either way, they were giving their audience bad information. And J.D. Vance wasn't going to stand for that nonsense.